Hey flower friends, it is Wednesday and that means it's Ask a Flower Farmer, and I expect most flower farmers are a little busy today and every day until Sunday, right? Biggest week of the year for flower farmers, the week before Mother's Day. And you know, my heart goes out to all of you. So Ask a Flower Farmer, in case you've never been here before, what this is all about is for about the next 30 minutes, I will do my best to answer your questions about flower farming or growing cut flowers or home gardening or anything to do with growing cut flowers, whether it's seed starting, harvesting cool flowers, planting, whatever you got. I'm going to move this back a little bit, y'all. I was running in here at the last minute as usual. And so if you have a question, I'd be happy to try to answer it, but you need to put it down below in the bubble with the question mark, because otherwise it gets pushed up and out of my view with all the people coming and going. So I'll be happy to do my best to answer your questions. So I know that most flower farmers are out pounding the pavement right now, whether they are cutting flowers, selling flowers, preparing flowers. It is the week, and I have to show you all these. These are the last of my peonies. And normally I don't get these pinks. Our peonies are a little early this year. We're about a week ahead of normal. And usually we only have white for Mother's Day. And so having pink, and we're using these for some bouquet demonstrations later on. So, I mean, holy cow, Sarah Bernhardt, you know, Dave Dowling says this is the most in-demand peony as far as a commercial grower goes. The best cost-effective one to purchase, and they're pretty dadgum spectacular. They're pretty big bombs out in our garden. So friends, so if you have a question about anything to do with cutting gardens, cut flowers, business, whatever have you, put it down in the bubble with the question mark. So this week on the show on Friday, I'm going to be talking about, and we're even going to do a little demonstration, I think, of direct sowing. You know, what's the difference? Why do I choose to start transplants in place of direct sowing almost all the time? Not all the time, but almost all the time. And would love to have you drop in for that. And that show, as well as the ones that are, the one tonight, I do a show tonight at 8 as well. They're both inside my phone app. If you don't have the phone app, it's free. I recommend you get it because it just ups your level of the experience, meaning you can do more stuff. The Friday show, we always have a giveaway on Fridays. I usually give away a $25 store credit, which is really pretty cool. We just love doing that for one lucky viewer. And so check it out. Join me tonight or Friday, but the best way to do it is through the app. The app is free. You just go to your phone's app store and search Gardener's Workshop, and it's our shop app. And download it, and then you can actually watch replays in there, and you can actually even shop in there if you'd like. And in fact, we sell almost as much product in there as we do on our big website. So it just think this, y'all. It's me with QVC, right? And so I tell you how I do it and what I do it with, and you can have the option to purchase it. Now remember, y'all, you need to put your questions down below in the bubble with the question mark, because I'll lose your question as people are moving through here. So just copy and paste if you put it in the comments and put it in that bubble down below. So what else should I tell you? Oh, mark your calendars, and I posted this earlier today. Save the date. Our open once a year open farm and warehouse, which is free, is June 28th, rain or shine. And if you comment open here, we'll DM you the link to the page that has all the details. From if you're coming from afar, and people come from all over, the hotel information and just the local attractions. You know, we are right here at Colonial Williamsburg and Yorktown and Virginia Beach, and just it's a great little vacation break time. So we'd love to have you come. And of course, Dave Dowling and Ellen Frost Two of our instructors who are also in the flower business. Dave was a flower farmer for 20 years and now is a retired cut flower specialist from Ball Hort. And Ellen is our resident florist that only uses local flowers. So they'll be here yammering and doing demos. Ellen will be flower arranging. And anyway, lots of fun. Check that out. Now we got some questions. Let's see what we got here, y'all. All of my flowers that I planted in the fall, let's see. All of my flowers that I planted in the fall and early spring, they're all up and growing, but I have no flowers yet. Is it the zone I'm in, 7A? Is there something I'm doing wrong? I would say, A, you're not doing anything wrong if you planted in the fall and very early spring and they're growing. So first off, it really depends on which flowers you are talking about. I mean, they definitely still bloom. There's early bloomers, early spring, mid-spring, and late spring. For instance, for us, the first flowers to bloom on our farm are champagne bubble Iceland poppies, bachelor buttons, and I just thought of another one. And those are naturally early, right? And calendula, pot marigold. So those are naturally really early. So those are all, and then there's other stuff. I'm sitting here looking at a bucket of status and amobium, and we have sweet peas, but I'm 8A. I'm a whole zone south of you, which means I'm probably warmer. I probably got warmer earlier. Depends on your rainfall, your growing conditions. So you just have to kind of make note of what your bloom out time is. I think that they still bloom in the same sequence that they do for everybody, but when yours actually gets started, really bloom depends on where you actually are. So congratulations, they're coming. Just be patient, and it gets easier every year. You know, y'all, I won't even tell you, I have probably killed more cool flowers figuring that out starting 25 years, 30, almost 30 years ago now. I've probably killed more cool flowers through the years than most people will ever grow in their lifetime. You know, it doesn't just happen perfectly the first time. So be patient. And congratulations. I always see these beautiful fields, but when I plant, the critters mow them. How do you handle that on a large scale? So it really depends on what critters you're talking about. We actually just in the last 2 years began using an electrified portable deer fence. We never had to do that for the first 25 years. I live in the middle of the city. We always had deer, but they tended to go to my neighbor's houses, which are right up against me, right? But we now have to do that. It also, at the bottom of that portable netting is small holes, which also now keeps rabbits out, and it is pretty amazing. And that's pretty wonderful. But I don't know what varmints, exactly what you're talking about, you know. Usually blocking their access, like deer fence kind of thing, is the best way. So it really, that is really specific to specific creatures, right? But it changes. So here, for the first 25 years, I never had to do anything much. And now we do. So we use a lot of row cover, insect, for instance. I have a demonstration garden planted in front of this great building here on my farm, and I've got it totally covered in insect netting because it allows more heat to rise out of it, is why I'm not using row cover. And I just know the rabbits are going to eat it. So you just have, there's a lot of different ways. It just really depends on what varmint you're actually talking about. Any tips for growing flowers in part shade? That's a toughie. If you're talking about growing cut flowers, because see, the point of cut flowers is that you, or a cut flower garden, is that you plant stuff most often that you cut it and it keeps growing back, right? And to do that, all of those flowers really require, you know, full sun, moisture, nutrients to be able to follow their life cycle of that. And so in part shade, in a dream world, if you had to have part shade, full sun in the morning up until about 2 o'clock, and then afternoon shade is doable, but you have to know that they may not regrow as quick as they do out in full blasting sun, right? And so that's the drawback. And, you know, I always tell people there is nothing wrong with lemon up trees. You know, most people don't actually prune their big trees. They should be pruned every year. I mean, I have an arborist that comes here on our farm, and they're whacking on our big oak trees and doing everything they can to keep them happy and healthy, and also to limb them up so there is more surface, meaning 25 feet and down, more light available. So think about that. Any tips on growing stock? Georgia, zone 8A. I early spring planted and just didn't get much height. You need to plant it earlier probably. So stock is one of the cool season hardy annuals. I do not fall plant it. That is the first seed I start in January so that I can get it out. So my very early, where you said you were 8AB, so you're even a little bit further south. That may be your actual Christmas job now, is to start stock seeds. So that probably the end of January is when you need to get stock in the ground. So of course those beds are prepared last fall, ready and waiting. Once it warms up, stock is not going to grow any height. And you know, you're in the south like I am. It is not. We had 90-degree afternoon here a couple weeks ago. I have no stock this year, which is a whole nother sad story. But once it starts getting warm, they aren't going to grow tall. But I can grow some killer stock outdoors when you get the good sized transplants in the ground early. I mean, I have planted stock through snow into prepared beds, and they did the best ever, you know. So probably planting early, and be sure you're growing varieties that grow tall. You know, my favorite variety, which only has 2 colors and it's most often not available, is Cheerful. Cheerful was always the tallest and the most double I ever grew, and it was just white, and they call it yellow, but it's actually ivory. 2 great colors to actually have. So I would say to you, plant earlier than what you planted and have nice sized transplants at that time, and I bet that means you need to start them before Christmas. Lynn Berry, great podcast on not planting all the plants. Actually composted a bunch of plants that I should have never started. Less is more. Thanks, Lisa. You know, so funny, Lynn, you should say that. I just finished, it's so hot on my mind, I had to record my master class for my membership, my Flower Farmer Club membership, twice this morning because of tech problems. And it really is talking about, you think not growing so many plants, it's about making the best use out of your every square foot that you have on your garden. You know, my contention is, I bet most farms that I visit or gardens that I go to, the first thing, you know, I'm looking around, you know how things immediately, I mean, if you're a mom, which I'm not, and you go to somebody's home and they have a child that's got a problem, you're already thinking in your mind, well, I would have done X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? That kind of, when I go to a farm or a garden, I almost always, my first line of thought is, holy cow, I could grow like twice as many plants in this space than they're growing. So many people do not space for cutting gardens, and then we push the limits even further than that. And I contend, why grow an acre if you can get the same volume of flowers out of a half an acre, right? I mean, and that's true. I could almost tell you almost everybody could cut their garden in half, be more intensive and more thorough, and get the same amount of flowers. Anyway, that was on the master class this morning, so glad that helped you. And that's right, always start more seeds than you need and then throw some away into the compost heap. How early should I direct sow zinnia seeds outside? And at what point on the zinnia do you recommend pinching them to encourage more growth? So, we don't direct sow zinnias outdoors, but if I was, because we start, I mean, ours are, I just took a great video of a bed. Ours are in the bed and they're already this tall, and it's still barely warm enough. In fact, I will say this, our buckwheat and snap beans, which we did direct sow, are heat lovers, just like zinnias. And they just popped. Today is the first time I've seen, you know, sprouts. And zinnias would be the same way. So direct sowing means that you are weeks behind me. My zinnias were 3 weeks old when I planted them, and they've been planted for a week and a half, because you can plant transplants into a little bit cooler conditions than seeds. I'm looking for at nighttime temperatures above 60 degrees and holding above 60. Has nothing to do with the daytime temperatures. Nighttime temperatures are a real signal of what your soil temperature is kind of doing, and zinnias need it hot. They need warm soil to sprout, or you're going to lose a lot of them, or they're going to rot sitting out there waiting for those conditions. In general, I would say it's probably 3 to 4 weeks after your last frost date to have the best success without a lot of weed pressure. So, and those are all the reasons why we plant transplants. I have seedlings that are getting, let's see if I can see it all. I have seedlings that are getting a little leggy and the first true leaves are not present yet. Is it okay to move them to a larger cell? I used your small blocking for seeds to get them started. So we don't typically block up. I have some right here I could show you. We don't normally bump up. I have my stuff ready for my show tonight. This is actually lemon basil, and this is about probably 10 days away from going out to the garden. This says April 20th. What is today? May something. So this is like 2.5 weeks old, right? And we don't typically bump up. We do that with like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and eucalyptus. Everything else grows up in this little block, just like this. This is celosia that is ready to go out to the garden. Look at these sturdy little, still got some water in there. This is 20 of the small blocks. And so we don't bump it up. Something in your conditions is not making them happy. If they're getting leggy, that means they're stretching for light. Plants need 16 to 18 hours of direct grow light, sunlight, which we don't even have that long of daylight, right? To stay short and stocky, and see how healthy that vegetation looks. So I don't know that bumping up is going to make any difference. They need more light, perhaps nutrition, and think about getting them out once they're sturdier to get hardened off so you can plant them. And start again. We're constantly starting seeds here, and if we have puny seedlings, I have learned the hard way through years, we dump puny seedlings and start them over again. It's that much of a difference in how they perform over the life. My autumn direct sown failed apart from 3 varieties on my field, so I'm keen to get it right this autumn and sow a bit earlier to get plants bigger, stronger to plant out in the autumn. Good for you. So when you do fall planting, the goal is that you are, whether you're direct sowing or planting transplants, you do it at the same time. You're either planting seeds in the garden for those that prefer it that way, or you're planting a transplant that you started weeks before, right? And if you want winter survival, and this is what we see people doing this, there's a couple things you need to know about. First off, planting 6 to 8 weeks before your first historic expected frost date. That means that's information you get off the internet. It's not your records for the last 2 years. That 6 to 8 week window before your frost date is the time that either allows that transplant to get well established before winter, or for that seed to sprout and grow into a little transplant before it goes in winter. So you need to plan on time. You need to ensure that that particular plant is winter hardy in your winter hardiness zone. If you live in zone 5 and you're trying to plant straw flowers in the fall, they only survive to zone 8, which is 3 zones south of you. That's where I am. So you just have to be sure you cover all of those bases. And timely planting. And then the other thing that kills a lot of cool flowers over the winter is not cold at all. If you follow those 2 rules, it is actually wet soil that doesn't drain very well, because winter is really wet and nothing dries out. So those are the 3 things that I would focus on. Oh, wait a minute. Hit the wrong button. Are all growing lights created equal? Nope. and a good quality for growing healthy seedlings. I got mine off of Amazon, and I'm guessing whether they're a good quality that seedlings need. Let me tell you, grow lights are the bane of my existence. We, for 20 years, we sold the best grow lights from the best company. They were out in Michigan. It was a family business, family-owned business, and it was just the best grow lights ever. I mean, we sold them, dump truckloads of them. And they went out of business as a result of what I'm getting ready to tell you. They went out of business like, I guess it's been 4 years now. The technology in the lighting world is so ridiculous now. It's nothing but a bunch of cheap lights. I mean, it's nothing like what it used to be. And everything is disposable, and you just have to do the best you can. I had a really hard time finding a light that I could get behind. We sell two lights. We sell a little 24-inch tabletop that'll support your seedlings. Then we have a 48-inch T5 tabletop that will support plants. Love them both, but there's just not any other options. I mean, we used to be able to do a lot more tweaking with them about where they were used and stuff. That is no longer the case. So I'm just saying, check, if your seedlings are, and how high the light is over the seedlings varies widely now. LED lights, to get the maximum footprint of light, the lights actually need to be higher so it can broadcast. Whereas we used to use T5s that got super hot, and those had to be high, but our ones that we loved, which are no longer made, T8s and T12s, had a little bit of warmth, and it was very beneficial to have them close to your plants. So I'm just lamenting on how annoying the whole grow light thing is. So I don't have any answer for you. Just do the best you can. And I love the ones that we sell. We've been selling them, and we use them here on the farm, and they do well. My snapdragons keep getting overtaken by rust even when I rip out affected plants. Any tip on how to avoid rust? I will tell you that I never got rust on my snaps until I started planting them again in very early spring. I always fall planted all my snaps. Snaps are typically winter hardy to zone 6 or 7, depending on varieties and where you are. And fall planted snaps, just for us here in the South, are definitely hardier and healthier and more well established when they hit spring. And we never had rust out in our field until I started very early spring planting. And I can only attribute that to that they just aren't as well established and they're a little bit more stressed, but they get rust. My understanding with rust is that there really isn't a super successful treatment. You just go to all odds to prevent it. Succession planting, removing infected plants and throwing them away, not putting them in your compost heap. But I would search engine that, controlling rust, and I'm sure some university paper will come up with some suggestions on what to do about that. And definitely I believe the spores live from year to year, so you have to be really careful with that. And I don't know if there's certain snap varieties that are more susceptible. And I will also say, while there are snaps that can bloom during the summer, longer days, and they'll grow tall before they start to bloom, we can do that, but they are covered in rust if we try to do that. We just know that we have about 6 to 8 weeks of snaps in April, May, and early June, and then we're done for snaps, and those were all fall planted. Didn't X that out. Wait a minute. What is your favorite gardening book for a home gardener growing flowers, herbs, and vegetables? Well, it just so happens that I wrote a book called Vegetables Loves Flowers. It's not really about growing vegetables, but it's why flowers benefit vegetables. And part of the flowers that we grow are herbs. It's a general gardening philosophy book on how I grow without really using pesticides. And so I would definitely recommend that. It's about how to create, kind of restore nature. And then it's got some cutting guard. It's got a cutting garden that's recommended for inside of a vegetable patch to really benefit the vegetables by all the creatures that are invited in because of the flowers, which is huge. Y'all, it all starts with flowers. Everything starts with flowers, right? So check that out. And thanks for asking. Sweet William is gorgeous blooming. Will it grow side shoots if I cut the main stem? That definitely depends on, that can be variety specific. Most of the ones that we grow, yes, they do definitely get side shoots. The central stem is definitely the best. But we grow electron, super duplex, both of which require vernalization. And then Amazon series, sorry y'all, Sweet William Amazon series and Sweet. And there's others, but we just don't have as much luck getting them tall before we have to cut them. So yeah, most of them do branch. And if you irrigate them, feed them, and keep them weeded, they will continue to bloom. They peter out when the heat starts. I don't know where you are, but here where we are, we can get Amazon to go into the summer pretty decently. We actually succession plant it. What is the lowest average nighttime temperature needed to transplant out celosia and gumphrena? Well, I don't know about gumphrena, but celosia does not like it cool. And here's the thing, and I'll wrap it up with this. What we have to remember is we aren't just trying to get our plants in the ground early. We want our plants to thrive without much intervention from us. We don't want to stress them, which makes them far more susceptible to disease and pests later in their life. By pushing the envelope and planting warm season tender annuals, celosias and gumphrena, really early, you cause more. If you plant early and then plant on time, what often happens is those later planted ones surpass the early ones unless you're taking steps to protect them. I wouldn't plant celosia out unless I'm offering protection with any nighttime temperatures below 60. It actually happened to us 2 weeks ago because I'm further in the south, right? So ours have been in the ground for a couple of weeks. I just literally didn't look at the weather forecast, y'all. And it went down to 51. And we definitely sustained damage on our celosia. And it bounced back. But I know that we're really monitoring to see how it aims out as the season goes on. But I think you're better to wait until it's warm, 60 degrees or higher at night. Moving forward is kind of a sign. That's kind of where we are now. We just picked up our bags, hoops, and covers that we quickly installed after that happened. So that's what my take would be, because we do know it's a fact now that transplants, young plants that are stressed, whether from the minute they start from seed through the growing up life, that get stressed unduly for whatever reason. Sometimes we can't control the stresses. They definitely are the ones that fall victim most often to pests and diseases, like the snaps with rust, right? And that will just makes all the difference in the world, So funny, I still have a couple of minutes. I have 2 more lives to do today, y'all. So this is a reminder to all my club members, Sewing Circle at 2 o'clock today for us to do our Sewing Circle together. And then I have at 8 p.m. tonight. Cut Flower Gardening is for all, and that happens inside the app. So please join me there. But what I was going to say is, we do this early bird sunflower thing where we start sunflowers so much earlier than other people because we want to have them for Mother's Day, which my heart makes my heart swoon. The flower farmer here in town, the new Lisa in town here, since I don't sell flowers, she was taking this huge truckload of flowers to her florist, and it just made my heart feel so good. I saw a bunch of sunflowers in there. So the point of early bird sunflowers is you start them early to get them in the ground early to get them for Mother's Day. Well, to make all that work, you have to do extra work. You have to hoop and cover them because it's cool outside, it's cold. We don't want them to just survive. We want them to grow, right? And that's the thing we just need to remember. Just getting stuff in the ground early does not mean you're going to get early flowers. So friends, Hope to see you tonight, 8 p.m. inside the app. That's a lot of fun and love doing that show. And then we have another big show on Friday, and word has it that I hear is there's going to be a bouquet segment. So join Suzanne and I, and we will see you guys on Friday. And if I don't see you again, happy Mother's Day. And I hope that every flower farmer out there sells every stinking flower they have, because local flowers are the best, y'all. Ciao.